So, David, what do you want to draw today?
Wow. I think I should probably draw Wonder. Yeah, I think so.
I hear Wonder Woman from the crowd.
How's it? I think we're gonna do Wonder Woman.
Let's go with Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Stick with the same theme.
All right.
So, when you guys start your process behind writing an issue, where do you begin? Because you're so close, obviously.
Typically, when we first found out we were going to do Wonder Woman, I sat down and I plotted out our first 6 issues, and then I took that plot and I broke it down into individual stories. And at that point, throughout the whole process, I talked to Dave and I think, will this work? Do you think this will work? And then at the end of that, I'm too close. I'll write a loose plot-based script for him to work from. I'll throw in dialogue, what I want the people to be saying, but I don't break it down panel for panel because I'm relatively new to the comic world, and he's been drawing comics for 20 years, and he really is one of the greatest storytellers visually in the comic book industry. And I wanted to let him have the freedom to do what he does best. And I think that's one of the things that's made our Wonder Woman story so strong, because he does such a great job of visual storytelling. And then it leaves it open for me to put my dialogue and the character-driven stuff in.
David, do you ever come back after she drops off a script or the layout or the by-page story, and come back and you're like, I think we should do something like this, something like that, or anything like that?
I pretty much leave it alone when it comes to the actual story. Where I would have more input, really, it just getting things across visually, especially when it comes to fight scenes. There are times I think, I really want to maybe take an extra page to really, make something splash and have that impact. So we'll talk about that. But for the most part, and actually I lay out my pages with Meredith. We sit down together, so when I'm planning a scene, it's a real back and forth. So once I've drawn the pages, it's no surprise for what I've drawn usually. I mean, I don't change it much. I would say generally. I've had a few surprises. I've had her pretty upset with me a couple times.
There was one time I cried.
It's true. It's
you
true.
Tell us about that.
We were doing the scene, I think it was issue 39, where Wonder Woman gets overcome by her emotions and kills injures one of the bugmen that are attacking or responsible for attacking the villagers. And then she has a moment where she cries at the end of it. She's just so overwhelmed by everything that's happening and everything that's going on in her life. And when he brought up that panel, it was unexpected because it wasn't something that I had talked to him about doing in the plot. But he felt like it really worked from a visual storytelling. And when I saw it, I was so overcome myself with the emotion of the scene that I cried too.
She was angry. That's right. She cried.
And I was like, she's crying.
Which I think we both felt it was a risk because she's such a strong character, and to show her crying, it's a risk to do that. But it felt right, I thought. I mean, Meredith is the strongest woman that I know, and you cry sometimes. All the time, but it happens. So,
I mean, that's got to be a different process for you because, working with Jeff Johns or whoever over the last, however many years, now working with Meredith, it's a closer relationship than you've ever had with a writer before. How does that work into your artwork?
I'm working actually more like I used to work when I was at Top Cow years ago. That was when I first got into comics. I worked for Top Cow, part of Image Comics, for 7 years, and everything that I did was all done loose plot style, which meant that I would get a very simple script, and I could do all the visual storytelling myself, which was very freeing. I think it's frustrating for writers sometimes if you don't give them the room to get their story across, but because we actually work together, I'm able to work that way with Meredith, and I'm able to sit down and do the layouts with her, so there's no surprises, everything kind of works, and I think there's a little more synergy that way than just getting a full script and going from there.
Have you guys had any disagreements on anything concerning Wonder Woman?
No.
Yes.
Okay. I say no because I just lose. Like, it's not like it's ever actually been a real fight.
we fight because David is my first editor, and so when I finish writing a plot for either the whole a 6-issue plot or an issue plot, the very first person who reads it is David, and then sometimes he'll poke holes in it, and I'll be like, really hate you right now because I'm so happy about this, and then you just poked a hole in it. So sometimes I get mad at him, and sometimes he gets mad at me. But I never criticize the art.
You better not.
Because I have to get him to draw another page the next day, and I know how that works.
Yes. Well, that was my next question. How long from script or plot all the way to finished issue, how long does that usually take for you guys?
David would usually do a page a day, but it really depends on what's on the page. So a double page spread might take 2 or 3 or 4 days, depending on how involved it is. There are also scenes. I mean, they're always the fun scenes that everybody loves to draw, and then there are the scenes that nobody wants to draw. So if there's like 500 people in a crowd, I don't think he enjoyed drawing the scene when Donna was talking to the huge crowd of Amazons, because he doesn't enjoy drawing a lot of little heads. And you got to make every head look a little bit different than the other head. So for him, I would say it probably takes a little over a month to do a book. And for myself, during that whole time, I'm working on refining dialogue, making sure that the previous issue looks the way I want it to look, making sure I'm writing the issue for the next month or two, trying to get ahead. I especially try to get ahead in the summer because we have children, and while he can go in the basement and work, I have to be mom for the summer months. So I tried to make sure I was ahead for summer. So for me, it's a little more of a balancing act, making sure that I have everything done, whereas his is more of the 9 to 5. He sits down in the morning and draws all day and comes back at night.
Is there ever, David, any line that you read in a script when you see it that you're like, oh, that's so Meredith, or something that she would say?
Yeah, for sure. I think I know her so well, and she writes the way she talks a lot of times. I really feel like the way she's writing Wonder Woman is kind of the way that she talks, really. I mean, it's just natural. So yeah, that definitely happens, for sure. And that can kind of pop me out of it for a second, because I'm like, hey, but yeah. And I know I tend to draw the same face a lot. I've got variations on that face, so it'll look a little, but it's still effectively the same face. And I've had people tell me that a lot of my faces look like me. So I think, when you're doing something creative, it can't help but put yourself into it.
Has Meredith made it into any of your art?
Yes, I have.
Yes, she has. Yeah.
I am the hand holding the sword, which is actually a spoon. In issue 42, I'm the old woman reaching over to get something out of a nightstand table. I'm the shirt. He did an Action Comics cover where Superman was taking off his shirt, so I'm taking off. I had to hold open one of his dress shirts, put it on over my clothes, and open it so he could get the folds right. I've held pencils, spoons, kneeled in a praying position, so with the cape on, so he could get the folds right. But never my face. Never my face. Walking, with a towel on my head for the shower scene with Wonder Woman, but never my face. I have a rule.
I mean, are these? Oh, here we go. Do you sit there the whole time, like holding a spoon for 2 hours while he?
I'm like, literally, how much longer do I have to stand like this? Because he makes it the most uncomfortable position he can make it. And then he says, okay, stay like that.
Yeah,
and so I'm like,
I never
okay.
Photo reference. I always draw it kind of first, and then I come to Meredith because I don't usually use reference, but there are times I can't get it right. And so I finally just crack and go upstairs and say, okay, you got to do this for me, And she does it because she knows if you don't do it, it's going to take me another 3 hours to finish the picture, so.
That's really funny. I think our mics are. Can you hear me, guys? Okay, good. So let's get to Wonder Woman, the actual story that you guys are doing right now. Your first arc was one of the major things was bringing back Donna Troy into the New 52. Whose idea was that?
That was Dan DiDio's idea, and I love Dan for it. He said we wanted to bring Donna Troy back, and then he gave us free reign, and we were allowed to do it however we wanted to do it. And I could not be happier because I think I love Donna Troy as much as I love Wonder Woman, and I feel like because we were able to bring her back in a really give her a very defined origin story, I feel very close to her as a character. And we're going to continue her story in our next arc as well. And I feel like it's really become a 40-60 split where we've got Wonder Woman in, it's still her book, but there's still, she and Donna are so intrinsically tied together right now that I can't help but bring Donna along in the journey that we're taking Wonder Woman on.
And also, I mean, now I see it right here. Now that when I see what David's drawing is one of the other major things is the new suit. How did that come about?
Sorry, we talked last year when we were promoting the book at San Diego about the fact that she's a woman, and put your hand up if you're a woman who only has one outfit in her closet. One outfit. You don't even have one pair of shoes in your closet. We all have multiple outfits and multiple pairs of shoes. And I thought, why would Wonder Woman, who is the world's greatest female superhero, only have one costume? So we really hinted back then that she would have other costumes in her closet. And we've seen those in the first 6 issues where she had her God of War costume and she had her regular costume. And then it really was just perfect timing that DC was looking to give Batman a new costume because Jim Gordon is taking over, and Superman was getting a new costume because of everything that's going on with him. And we were offered the opportunity to give Wonder Woman a new costume too. And I thought it's perfect timing because everything that we've done in the first 6 issues, her being the God of War, she's the queen of Themyscira now, she's still a member of the Justice League. I wanted something that tied all of those together because that first costume she put on was just her going out into the world of men. She was still just a princess. And I wanted something that was more in line with the other DC superheroes and in line with who she is now. She's a queen and a god. And I felt like Dave and I we put a lot of thought into the costume because we wanted it to be something that stuck around. I didn't want this to just be something that was a 6-issue thing and then we dropped it. We really wanted to be something that was iconically Wonder Woman when you looked at it. And I feel like after many tries, we really came up with something. When he drew that costume, instantly I was like, that's it. Yeah. And he'd submitted, I think, 4 or 5 others to DC for approval, and they didn't really like any of them.
It was a lot more.
And when he submitted that one, they're like, that's it. Like, it just clicked. When it's right, it's right.
Yeah. Now, David, is it exciting to redefine one of the big 3 like that in a new and modern way? That you get to redesign a new costume that like Meredith is saying, sticks around for a long time.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the hope always is to be able to do something that maybe will last, and there's never any guarantee of that. And so drawing her costume, I hope it's something that will have a long-term influence. So what I always hope for. So, if that actually happens, we'll see. But it's definitely, it's a big challenge. Everybody, when it comes to characters like Wonder Woman or Superman or Batman, everybody has so much ownership over them. All the fans really feel like they have a very strong opinion about who they are. So it's a challenge.
The other big thing that I've found in your arcs, with Brian Azzarello and Cliff Chiang, it was very singular. Wonder Woman was doing her own thing, and now Wonder Woman is more in the fold of the New 52. And I feel like, it's fun in its own way, just like that was fun in its own way. It's great to see her in her own book with the Justice League and Superman popping in, and it feels a little like cohesive. How fun is that to write Superman because you're not just writing Wonder Woman and all that?
It was a lot of fun. I was a little worried because characters like Batman and Superman have really strongly defined voices for the fans, and surprisingly, Batman was maybe the easiest. Because I guess I'm kind of a mean, snarky person in real life. I don't know. Dave would agree. He's like, wow, I kind of really like your Batman lines. So it was fun. And it was, I always feel, though, that incorporating characters, other characters from the DCU, need to add to the story. And I felt like for the first arc that they really did, because I wanted to show how she had so many things that were on her plate, and she was being pulled in so many different directions. And I feel like this arc, what you're going to see is the other people in her life, her girlfriends, and because as a woman, that's something that's very central to your existence is the sort of support network that you have around you, and how they impact your life. So you're going to see that more in this arc, the people that she counts on in a different way, and her girlfriends, the females in her life, now that her mother's gone, who are supporting her.
So if Batman was the easiest, who was the hardest? Besides Diana, if she was even hard, who was the hardest to write?
Initially, it was Wonder Woman. It was coming onto that book because Brian and Cliff had done such an amazing job with their run, and they really had a very strong, defined voice for her. It was a challenge for me to make sure that I was being true to myself, but being true to the character that they had spent 35 issues lovingly creating and crafting. So I think I second-guessed myself because the other characters are just appearing. And so if I got a Superman line wrong, it's a Superman line. But this is a Wonder Woman book. Right, yeah. So for me, definitely the biggest challenge was finding her voice.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's got to be daunting, but I mean, I think a lot of people here can agree that it's been awesome so far. I think David's getting there a little bit on his art, and we do have a few more minutes. Does anybody have any questions about Wonder Woman or about anything comics related, that they want to ask? Feel free. Don't be afraid.
Any art questions, whatever?
If there aren't any questions, we can just keep on talking Wonder Woman. That's fine with me. Well, if you have any, just throw them out there. Anyway, now that the Wonder Woman costume is in the booth, does that influence anything? Not, from theatrical per se, but what you see in trailers or anything like that. Do you ever like, oh man, that's cool. I wish I did that, or maybe we could do something similar or something like that.
I feel really lucky that the film isn't out yet because I might be heavily influenced by it. So instead I can look at it and say, wow, Gal Gadot looks awesome. I think she was a perfect choice for the role. I think the costume looks amazing. It's, again, it's always interesting to me how many times you can revise a costume and still have it be iconic. And Wonder Woman's costume is so iconic, and there's been a lot of different versions of it. And so I haven't had a chance to get over there and look at it yet. I just keep seeing it from afar. I've seen it from that corner, and I've seen it from that corner. Now I'm seeing it from up here, and I'm looking forward to getting over and taking a closer look at it. But I think that anything that showcases her, and I do think she's going to steal the show when Batman Superman comes out. I have a feeling just like Scarlett Johansson, for me, always steals the show in the Avengers movies. I think we're going to see Wonder Woman be the main character that people walk out of that movie talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, when you do have a chance, it's incredible. It's really fun, and it is a good time to be on Wonder Woman. It's been a lot of fun. I was going to ask another question for David, but I'm losing it now. Anyway. Yeah.
David.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about working with your wife?
It's so hard to pick.
And yes, you do have to go home with me after this.
My favorite thing really actually is just being able to talk story with you, and it's Meredith's story, and I really try and stay out of it, but we do talk about some loose plot things, and I've got a few ideas in there, and I've been able to have my influence in, and just I'm all about the big cool shots in the fight scenes. That's really what I like the most. I mean, and so being able to have the room, and Meredith has really given me the room to be able to make decisions for those sorts of scenes, that it makes a huge difference for me. So that's been really gratifying. And being able to do this with my wife, this is great.
Interesting little note about our process is that oftentimes, because he works in the basement of our house and he goes down in the morning after the kids go to school and starts working, and then I go to either I go get groceries, or I throw in a load of laundry, or I cut the grass, or I do whatever household jobs need to be done. Then I'll sit down and I allocate time for myself to write. And if I'm ever stuck, or I feel like we need to talk story, then we go out for lunch. And it seems like we can't talk story at home, because when we're at home, we're talking about the kids or things around the house. But we always, whenever we have trouble, if I'm having trouble with the story or what I want to do, we just go out for lunch. We have a couple of restaurants around town. We sit down over a glass of wine maybe, and we talk story. And it seems like the best ideas come from those times where we sit down, just the two of us, with no distractions, and we can just talk about the character in the book and what we're doing on it. And then the kids get home from school, and Dave comes upstairs, and he is a great dad. He spends his time, we always eat dinner together as a family, and he spends time with us until the kids go to bed, and then he goes back down. He'll either work down the basement if he needs to. Hi, Peter. Or he'll bring his page upstairs.
Peter.
Hi. Peter. And then he'll bring out his page upstairs, and we'll sit down and we'll watch TV on the couch together. And so it's funny. You think because we're husband and wife and we work out of the house that we would spend a lot of time together, but we really are he needs his space. He likes to live in the basement. I need not my space. I like to live in sunlight. And it works really well for our process.
I remember my question from earlier. Are the kids into comics, and are they like, oh my God, you're on Wonder Woman?
No.
Our kids are into comics when their friends come over, and they're like, hey, my dad draws Wonder Woman, or my dad drew Batman. Let me give you a couple of comics. And then they are like, oh my gosh, your dad draws Batman, or your dad does. And then they're into comics. But it's one of those, you get exposed, it's all over the house. And you see it all the time, and you almost become numb to it. You forget that it's kind of a cool thing for parents to be working in comics.
With David being in comics for so long, and now you're writing, were you, on the flip side of that, my husband works in comics, my husband drew Batman, and now, if you were like that, how does it feel now?
When I first met David, I didn't even know comics existed. He told me, he's like, yeah, I work for comics. I'm like, oh, do you draw in the comics, in the newspaper? Which one do you draw? He's like, no, I do comic books. I'm like, oh, Archie and Betty and Veronica? No, not exactly. And we were out for lunch, and he happened to have a couple of comics in the back of his car. He happened. And so he gave me Avengers Disassembled. And if any of you have read Avengers Disassembled, the issue that he gave me was She-Hulk tearing apart what looks like a man robot. And he's very good at doing the gory graphic stuff. And I flip open.
Meredith, it was the Vision.
Oh, the Vision, sorry.
Come on.
It was She-Hulk tearing apart the Vision. And I open the comic, I'm like, oh, this is a cool cover. And then I flip it up, I'm like, oh, do I want to go on another date with this guy?
I could so see it on her face. I'm thinking, okay, I don't know.
I'm
I don't
like,
know if it's gonna work
okay.
out
And then
now.
I was like, so he's like, I work in comics. And so I thought, okay, well, he's got a nice car. He has his own house, so he must be sort of successful. And then we went to New York Comic Con. I went with him. And it wasn't until I went to the New York Comic Convention and he got mobbed. I was like, oh, I guess he's kind of a big deal. I guess people really like what he's doing. And it is, I have to be honest, it's different because now he's working on Wonder Woman and we're doing this collaborative thing together. But for the most part, what I'm thinking of is, did you get your page done today? Because we got a mortgage to pay.
That's awesome. I think we have to wrap this up. How do you want to give this this out? Do we want to? Do we have any Wonder Woman trivia we can throw their way? Do you have any question like specifically to what you guys have been doing? You know, these guys look smart. I think they can handle it. Anything specific? Here we go.
What was the name of the sorceress who was involved in the creation of Donna Troy?
You, sir. What was that?
That's. There you go. Ding, 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 ding.
You wins. What was it?
Hecate or Hecate.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not good with my Greek pronunciation.
When he's all finished, this gentleman in the Superman shirt right there has won.
All right.
But that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Guys, thanks for hanging out. Let's give a round of applause for David and Meredith Finch.
That was fun. Thank you, everybody, so much.